Welcome viewers, this is Winch here, back by popular demand, episode 4 of my survivability series detailing tips and strategies. This one in particular, Guerrilla Warfare, very important one. And notice right off the bat, tip number 1, map movement, map transgression. Notice how whenever I weave in and out of these buildings, I'm minimizing to the greatest extent possible my exposure to enemy fire. That's something that should be always in the back of your mind as you're progressing through the map. That is, I mean, there's a lot of snipers out here, a lot of threats. Now, Guerrilla Warfare is all about being stealthy, being deadly, and maximizing your effectiveness with little resources available, particularly when you're working as a lone gunman. Let's just say playing by yourself. So tip number 2 is prioritizing targets. Vehicles are always your highest value target. These are the game changers on the battlefield, so any opportunity you get to take out a vehicle, you need to capitalize on that. And whenever you're approaching them, make sure you do it outside their field of view. Always bear in mind the direction of those turrets. If they're looking at you, chances are, particularly on PC, as quick as those turrets move, you're not going to be able to eliminate them. So approach them from the rear, from the sides, and again, just watch their movement, be smart about approaching them. Now, I've heard this, or I've said this before, but enemy silent calls. I'm about to get a grenade thrown right into the side of my head here. There it is. There's 30% damage, or about 28 damage right there. Replay it again. So I heard that guy calling the grenade throw. So I know there's an enemy over here, somewhere in this building behind me. That's why I've got my back to the wall right here. That's why I'm listening for him, trying to hear footsteps. Footsteps are hard to hear in this game, but again, he made the mistake of going into the building, looking for me. You never pursue players. Tip number 5, never pursue players into buildings, particularly ones with staircases, because when you go up the staircase, you go up very slowly, and it just leaves you too long exposed to fire from the rear. So I've said that before, I'll say it again, I'll beat that dead horse every chance I get, but you do not pursue players. Absolutely. And you'll see that more once just in this footage, just in this one clip. That's how often I see players make that mistake. So as I'm moving through this map right here, I'm trying to make the decision. I want to get to the objective here at some point. I've pretty much cleared this area out. So tip number 6 is you always need to clear an area, particularly when you're traversing an open area. Now watch this little wall area up here, because I actually see some movement. Now movement is what cues you into enemy players, and that's how quick it goes. Let me replay that again a couple times. So see that guy running up there? Immediately I realize I'm at a disadvantage. Pull back. That's tip number 8. You gotta know, and look, I'm already taking fire. Gotta know when you're facing multiple targets, you know, make the game yours, pull back. And I'm gonna make this game mine by capitalizing on these players' predictability. Tip number 10, notice how I spotted those players a moment ago. Now I can watch their movement on the mini-map. Obviously I can solicit the help of my teammates over there at my flank. They're engaging, looks like a couple enemies, but looks like 2 are still coming over here. Now Guerrilla Warfare capitalizes on traps, booby traps. I've said this before in Battlefield 3, it translates directly to Battlefield 4. C4 is an excellent tool, particularly when I've got like a support class LMG that's terrible at... And again, listen for calls there. I don't mean to talk over myself, but again, here we are again, right there. Another guy making the same mistake again. But what I was saying before is that C4 is an excellent complement to the weapon in that at close range engagements, there's no question you're going to win that one. Now right here is where I make the mistake. Classic mistake. Tip number 12. I've detailed this before as well when I observed enemies doing it. I'm guilty of doing it too. Never, never, never leave cover. I have my body fully exposed there. I'm on top of a building. Game over. So let's get in the next segment here. This footage will be Naval Strike with AS Val, but tip number 13, I know it's newbie, but Stingers, Siglas, you got to have them in transport helicopters and or scout helicopters. It just gives you an extra anti-air feature. I know it's kind of unrealistic here. I can just shoot this right through the chopper, but again, it's deadly effective, and having a couple guys in a chopper like that will really help you combat the air threat out there. Of course, it's not going to deal with anything on the ground. So here's my loadout, the AS Val Angle foregrip with canted iron sights and a PK scope, which I'll talk about here in a moment. Or it's not a PK scope, but it's a 3.5 zoom scope. So tip number 14, you always need to orient your body towards the enemy flag positions, because that's where the enemy is going to be approaching from. You can predict that movement, and this little area right here with the suppressor, I mean, it's next to impossible for them to see me or return fire. So here I'm taking out some enemies at close range using this rock as cover. Obviously, this boat right here is a big threat, but it looks like he's beached. So I'm throwing out some M2 slams, which also stick to that, and I think somebody shoots an RPG or something and takes credit for that kill, but, you know, that's teamwork. So again, I'm going to pull back here, because again, the fire is coming from the B flag direction here. We got enemies on the beach. So tip number 15, you need to tailor your weapon loadout to enhance its effectiveness. AS Val, it's not what it was in Battlefield 3. I'll be doing a weapon review of this, but allowing myself to at least see the enemies helps dramatically my effectiveness here. Now I'm taking fire here. I'm going to pull back. I realized that burst I just threw out, this was not working with this weapon. And you always have to change to single fire when you want to try to get some longer range shots with this weapon. So that's what I do. Remember to change your fire rate on the weapon to make it more effective. That's a piece of advice I just don't see people utilizing very often, particularly with this weapon with only 20 bullet count. I really need to be using that. Now right there was suppression. My reticle is going up through the roof. DMR spam. You gotta know when to pull back when people are spamming like that, because you can't hit the broadside of a barn with that kind of reticle deviation from DMR spam. So that was a mistake I made. So tip number 18, now when you're approaching another target, here we're finally get up to the B flag. Use elevation to your advantage to reduce a bullet drop, and this is especially important with suppressed weapons like the AS Val. The bullet drop is just so significant with this suppressor on board, and it's a fixed suppressor, so you can't remove it. So as you can see here, trying to aim up just a little bit. I'm going to go back to single fire here as I take out these enemies at range. And the damage on this weapon is just terrible compared to what it was with Battlefield 3. I mean, it's like a 7 bullet kill at range at those kind of ranges, where in Battlefield 3 I think it was at least a 6 or 5. I don't think it was much more than that. It was doing like 18 minimum damage if I remember correctly. So continuing to play your role. I'm running an anti-air roll right now on these Lost Island map, because this is an air dominating map. These guys in these jets will just destroy any boats. They can get infantry out here, so continue to play your role. I know it's newbie. I'm running the igloo right here, so I gotta maintain a lock on the aircraft continually until the missile hits. But that allows me to reach out to, I think, to 400 meters as opposed to 300 with the Stinger, so a little extra range helps. And, you know, I know it's a newbie tactic, but that's the only way you can combat these threats, unless you got a good jet pilot, which most of the time you don't. But don't lose situational awareness. Tip number 20. I mean, there's enemy right here in front of me. I don't even see him because I'm so fixated on anti-infantry, but somehow he misses his shot. And this is a moment where humiliation is acceptable, because that was an epic fail on his behalf. So, yeah, every now and then I like to rub it in. I know it's not very professional, but, you know, sorry, it's my throwback to Call of Duty fans out there. So tip number 1, don't forget about M2 slams and combating boats. Boats are devastating on these maps, and I know this isn't an instant gratification thing. It feels like a labor chore to throw out mines, and a lot of times you don't get kills, but here it is. I mean, here's this boat. He's lighting me up right here. I don't know how he picked me up that quick. So I pulled back, I barely escaped death right there. Now he doesn't want to turn his big boat around in this little narrow canal, so he's going to go around this island, and guess what? He's going to go right into those mines. I pick up this enemy here. I'm going single fire on him, and it actually kind of throws me off, because I thought I got the kill on this guy, but it turns out those were the slam kills. They pulled the triple kill from the slam. So normally it doesn't happen that quick, but it's a good example of investing in your future, so to say. Slams are a great anti-vehicle deterrent. So here I'm spotting enemies, making a plan. Objective Echo is where a lot of action's going to go down here. Always swim underwater when you can, and I don't know why I'm not pulling this off as good as I want to, but get underwater. It helps the enemy, just reduces your chances of getting seen. That's what Guerrilla Warfare is all about: stealth, not letting the enemy see you or know that you're there until basically you're pulling the trigger. Excuse me. So I'm pulling up to Objective Echo here. I know they're in this bunker because that's a pretty predictable place to be. It's a good fortified position, but how do you get them out of this position? I just don't go running in here. Even though I got good close quarters combat, you want to eliminate your exposure, your threat possibly. So throw a little grenade in there, and this will always flush out enemies. Allow them come out, try to acquire you. By that time, they're dead. So another option would have been to come around here too at the front of the bunker and shoot them through these little slits as well. But again, you never know. They may be looking out there, and chances are, you know, there is a chance that you could get eliminated as well. So now I'm on the burn. I'm looking and listening, but I'm not sure where the enemy is. But you got to know when to retreat. I'm a lone guy out here. I see a couple guys on the mini-map. I gotta be careful about my next move here. And you should be careful about just pulling the trigger. Right here, I shouldn't have shot at those guys. Thankfully, the suppressor saved me. They probably didn't pick up on it, but an unsuppressed weapon in that situation would have been the enemy right there. But this guy knows I'm around. They're looking for me. We're both just kind of running around. I'm trying to be careful about my shots here. Again, this is where the angled iron sights come in effect at these kind of range engagements. Obviously, you don't want to be looking down a big 3.5 zoom scope in these kind of situations. So there I took fire, and notice it was a sniper. I heard the bolt action. I'm watching him on the mini-map, and guess what? He's coming. He's looking around for me. I know that tip number 23. I know he's a sniper. I know he has to have his secondary out at this kind of range, and it's probably a pistol. If it's a short aim, it's going to work. So there's the sound bit again, and tip right here, 24, maximize your cover advantage. I heard the direction that guy's call. I looked towards him, and basically in just 7 bullets I put him down. This weapon's pretty devastating at these kind of ranges. Right there I get hung up on some rocks, and that's the end of it. So as we wrap it up here, this final clip, we gotta squeeze in and only in Battlefield 4 moment when you see these bodies rocket up. Look at this. What just happened there? This looks cool. Stuff like this always kind of, I always try to capture when I can. Just like, I kind of grin when that kind of stuff happens. But this guy, enemy up here, is going to drop my teammate. But thankfully I shoot through him and get a headshot, I believe, on that enemy. Again, this weapon, I get so many headshots with the AS-VAL. There's one good thing I can say about it, the fact that it's so weak, particularly that range, is that you do pull off a lot of headshots, and that will save you and help deter the low damage on this weapon. So this final clip here, again, I'm moving smartly through cover next to the building, using foliage, spotting guys, throwing out bullets when I can, and I take notice of this scout helicopter right here, the Z11. Now, tip number 25, you probably won't pull off these shots on the chopper pilot, but you will be suppressing them, and that's nearly as effective, because if they can't see what they're shooting at, if they're disoriented, they're just as susceptible to suppression in the chopper as they are on foot. So keep that in mind. Just throw some bullets at them to get them moving. And my final tip, guerrilla warfare, you utilize available resources on the battlefield. A rib boat's a very powerful weapon. Normally this would work in this situation, as I try to cold route this around, try to get the anti-air kill, and unfortunately it fails. But needless to say, it's a good tactic nonetheless. Utilize any equipment you see on the battlefield. I hope you guys liked the series. Hope you learned something today. That wraps it up for this episode. Guerrilla warfare, remember, it's about survivability, it's about stealthiness, it's about outsmarting your opponent, because more chances than not in these situations you're outnumbered, you're outgunned, but be smart about it. Thanks for watching.